Hi again. I just wanted to take a few minutes in this week 4 to talk to you about an experience that I had in the classroom that enabled my team and my team teachers to create a real sense of community and culture within the students, with the other teachers, and then also sort of extending this out into the community. And so I'm going to talk briefly about that. The unit was based, it sort of was born in the social studies classroom where which is my focus or my discipline area. And we created a problem-based learning unit, a PBL, around a group of refugees. And we decided this was, as it still is in the news a lot, but this was, we involved the two countries of Sudan and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And set it up as if a group of refugees was seeking asylum, leaving Sudan and seeking asylum in the DRC. And this had been in the news. It's something that was a relevant topic, certainly. And so, in that way, there were a lot of resources available, as there still are on that topic. But we gave very little bit, if you know how PBLs work, we gave very little information, only that this group of refugees was seeking asylum. And we did a KWL chart, right? And we did this in the social studies classroom as a way to start. And so immediately the students were engaged. I was completely overwhelmed because I'd never done anything like this really before, and had taken a class that had this listed and had done some as a strategy. And I think that the biggest part was letting go, because you really realize when you do that and you're asking students what they want to know, you have to help them figure that out, right? And it was a little overwhelming to suddenly have them ask questions that I had no clue how to even begin answering, right? So that piece of it is really hard, but certainly doable and manageable if you have a good team to support you. So we got that list together, and then we were able to, as teachers, realize like what things fit better in which content areas, and divided that up accordingly. And you know, that you can read a lot about PBLs. You've had some of that put forth in this course, and I would say that it is one of the more powerful experiences because the students in your class really get to take ownership of the curriculum. I was able to add in or to shape things as needed to help meet curriculum standards, as we all were on the team, but all the teachers were on board and excited about what it was going to involve. What we ended up doing was allowing students, I spoke in one of the discussion forums in week 3 about, or typed in the discussion forums in week 3 about the opportunity to really make the curriculum, the disciplines disappear, and it to just be a real authentic, organic learning experience. And that's really what this became. I mean, we had the advantage of having some flex time built into our day. And so we would say, today I'm going to the lab and I'm taking the kids that need to go do computer lab work. And the science teacher would say, well, we have experiments going on in this room, or we need to do research in the lab. So the science lab, so I can take whatever kids need to go in here. It was that kind of arrangement. And so kids were going different places every day. And that was, of course, chaotic, but they were able to handle it, within reason. So I encourage you to sort of take that and know that it's possible, even though it might be a little chaotic. In the end, they did a lot of research, and they ended up doing things that I think is why, in the end, I'm putting this in section 3 with prompt 3 about reaching out into the community. This was the part of the project that shocked me the most, that the students came up with, that when I was planning this out, did not foresee happening. And I think that was the piece why it was the most powerful, because it totally came from the students. Throughout this process, they discovered the United Nations, which of course they had heard about in class and they knew about, but they really began to look at the impact. They were able to take a document like the UN Declaration of Human Rights and look at that and say, these refugees have these certain dangers of not having these rights met. And they began to want to write letters because they were truly invested. That was their idea, not mine. And I was again, the language arts teacher and I then started to sort of scramble to figure out how this was going to happen, and do we really send the letters or not? And because these refugees are more a symbolic refugee group, right? And the same thing happened with the Human Rights Watch. They got involved in that. They started sending emails. No idea that was going to happen when we set out. Again, a student found a link to World Vision, which you have a link to in your resources here, and it's a Christian-based organization, but that never really came up in the classroom, so it wasn't an issue. But one of the things that they looked at a lot was the issue of refugee camps and what kind of impact that would have, and if people are living in refugee camps, are they getting clean water? Are they getting their needs met and their basic rights met? And so they had this idea of, well, we need to order mosquito nets, and we need to order a well to make sure that they have fresh water. And they then took it upon themselves to begin asking people for money and fundraising, and they sent out letters to the community and in the school and to their parents to ask for money to benefit refugees in Sudan. And these refugees do actually exist, right? It was just not that particular group that we had, we had sort of made up the story, so to speak. But the refugee problem, of course, is a real one. What started as a PBL became something that was really real and alive for these students, and that they became very concerned about the welfare of this group of this group of refugees. Students who had been quiet and perhaps not really all that interested in learning for most of the year became really engaged. There was one kid in particular that I was just shocked at how involved he became. We all kind of just stood back and weren't really sure what to do, because we had such a hard time motivating him, and he was just really motivated to be involved in this. It also became really apparent to us that they needed something real and tangible to latch onto, because this started as this sort of intangible group of refugees, and we needed to make it real. And so I got on the phone and I started calling around, and I was able to locate some of the Lost Boys of Sudan that were actually living in Charlotte. And we had a couple of those guys come down and meet with our team. And it kind of I'm sitting here with chills on my arms, which you can't see, but it was one of the more fabulous experiences that I ever had, one where many of us left in tears, the teachers included. And you can see some of that if you go look around the Lost Boys website that's on your resource list. But the ones that are here in Charlotte, they came down and they talked to our kids, and they talked about what it was like to be in those refugee camps, and to be, have seen people die, and to be come into the United States and trying to sort of start completely over. And the kids got really involved. They ended up writing further letters of support, raising money for some of those refugees that were here. And I want to point out that this happened in the last month of school. We took breaks for testing, and then in the afternoon, when a lot of people were given worksheets and, showing the movie that they shouldn't have been showing, right? We were doing this in the labs. It was incredible. It didn't make us extremely popular among the other teachers at times, because we were sort of working our tails off, and the administration, of course, loved it, but and parents loved it. But I think some of the other teachers were perhaps thinking we were overshooting, if you will. But it was absolutely phenomenal, the experience. In the end, the students ended up making recommendations, and part of their evaluation was coming to, we took the students on a field trip to the district office. They presented to a mock UN committee that was going to be taking their recommendations back, right? And they put together the most amazing projects. Not everybody presented, of course, because a lot of them had done a lot of the research work. We had some people that then were more comfortable presenting. This opportunity really gave us an opportunity for students to connect with themselves, with each other, with their teachers, with an opportunity to build on their skills, things they felt more comfortable with than others. They had a lot of autonomy in the process. It met standards. And I think the biggest thing was that they really got that their learning matters, and that I could not have planned it any better, but a big article came out in the Charlotte Observer right at the end, after the students had presented. We were in the next to last day of school, and an article came out in the Charlotte Observer about what the UN was thinking about with Sudan, and several of the things that they had suggested to this committee were actually presented and in this article. And so it was amazing. They're thinking, the kids were just so, we thought the same thing that the UN did. I mean, they were just very excited about this. And I'm just, it's one of the teaching experiences that I'm frankly most proud of, and that I often revisit when I am missing my 7th graders, because it was an awesome experience. So please don't be afraid to try this sort of thing and to think about opportunities for how you can connect to your communities. You could think about it. We did a similar unit when the tsunami hit in 2004. And the kids, that was a very real project, right? Where they were really able to see the impact that had had on the area, and collected money, again, just through sending out letters to people and asking. And the community of Clover really got involved. So it's those sorts of things I think matter, where they can write letters and feel that what they are learning in the classroom connects them to a community that exists beyond those walls. I hope that this was helpful, and if you have questions, certainly send me an email and let me know. But I hope to hear about all the great experiences that you guys have in your classroom at some point, and you can shoot me an email and say something that you did that enabled your students to have this kind of experience. It was really great. I wish I could have done more of it in my classroom over the years. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Have a good evening.